safe streets, vibrant neighborhoods, successful business and commerce. These are things that make a healthy community. We are a diverse community, rural, suburban, urban, a multitude of languages and ethnicities, ages and experiences. We are a collaborative community. Public-private partnerships make us a model community that others want to follow. It is what makes us unique. It is what makes us strong. The employees of Kent County reflect our diversity and seek to serve our communities.
People in this county, in this area, we wrap our arms around each other. We come together to collaborate, to solve problems. We're all working for the good of the whole. And I think that's wonderful. And you can see it. You can see it as you drive around Kent County.
Our impact starts the day a baby is born and a birth certificate is issued, to protecting children from deadly diseases through vaccination, to the public safety and justice provided by law enforcement and the courts, to offering veterans services and caring for the elderly. Every day we work to keep our communities robust.
I think if you are somebody who is interested in serving your community, in building a strong knowledge base and a good group of people to work with, then the county is one of your best employment opportunities out there. It's been completely rewarding in every way I could possibly explain for 26 years, and I feel like I grow every single day still today.
Leading these dedicated employees, our 19-member Board of Commissioners and our County Administrator Controller, along with our elected officials and appointed department directors, placing emphasis on civic involvement, quality housing, vibrant neighborhoods, and strong, solid infrastructure to allow businesses to thrive. Professional, dedicated, collaborative, and innovative.
Behind the scenes, collaboration between foundations, charitable organizations, nonprofits, for-profit businesses, public sector demonstrated through the county, the city of Grand Rapids, the townships, all the cities and the villages in our area. If we don't come together, then we will not have the strength that we have today, and I only hope to build upon that.
Our aim is to make our communities the best they can be. We are involved in exciting development projects, sustainable recycling programs, and creative progressive prevention programming. We partner with elected officials, impacting policy ideas that become great achievements. We seek opportunities to reach out into the community and offer our services to help our residents make Kent County thrive.
Our relationship is solid, both from a staff standpoint at the county level as well as the Board of Commissioners. And they understand what we do and the benefits that we can do for the community, and vice versa. We couldn't do what we do without the help of Kent County.
While most of us are busy running our lives, Kent County's elected officials, administrator controller, and over 1,600 employees are serving the communities where we live our lives, so we can all have a place we are proud to call home. Kent County, its life well run.
All right, it's 8:30, and let's go ahead and call to order the meeting of the Legislative and Human Resource Committee of the Board of Commissioners. We'll start with item number 1, which is public comment. If anyone wishes to address the committee, you may do so by stepping up to the podium and identifying yourself, and you have up to 3 minutes. If not, we'll move to item number 2, which is approval of the minutes from June 25, 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Second.
It is supported. Any conversation? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Well, we got the minutes approved. That's a good sign. Let's move on to the treasurer's report. Ken Parrish, our treasurer, is here to give us a performance measurements review. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Okay, I got to figure out, so I just go over it. Okay. First time using this new gizmo, so hopefully it'll go well. Happy to be here this morning to present an update on our performance measures and what's been happening in the County Treasurer's Office. My presentation, and I'm sure you've seen formats very similar to this. Administrative staff is very helpful in providing us with these outlines, so I thank Wayman and his staff for working on that for us. But I'm going to talk a little bit about aligning with your new board priorities. Then I'm going to touch on some of the key performance metrics, significant budget issues, and really there's just one, but it is significant, some significant accomplishments, key collaborations, and then a quick look ahead. Essentially, pretty much everything we do in my office relates to your board priority of economic prosperity, which, as you all know, focuses on sound fiscal management and policies to support the economic prosperity of the county as well as the West Michigan region. The mission of my office is to collect lodging and delinquent real property taxes and manage all county funds within relative laws, regulations, policies, and community standards. Some of the key goals and metrics that we have, the first one is to collect the delinquent real property taxes in accordance with methods prescribed by state statute, and the objective is to receive and account for 100% of the delinquent real property taxes collected. We continue to be very successful with that. The way the tax foreclosure process has been created and developed over the last 20 years, it makes it quite feasible and reasonable to make that happen. So we've been very fortunate that continues. To collect all lodging taxes due the county, and the objective that we use for that is to audit at least 25% of all eligible establishments annually. Getting a little more challenging every year with the number of hotels coming online. We're just shy of 100 now. When I started, I think we had about 65. So there's a continued growth, but we do continue to try to streamline our process and use technology as best we can to hopefully avoid adding staff. This year we were, as you see over the past several years, we've hovered around the 25%. You know, literally, if we do one less than 25%, it's like a 1.5 points below. So, but we've been very close, and in speaking with the auditor this year, she believes that she should be doing at least 25% this year. So we're in good shape there, and I'll be touching on lodging taxes again in a few minutes. To invest the funds entrusted in the Office of the County Treasurer in accordance with investment policies. And again, as you've heard me say more times than we all care to admit, I operate with safety being the #1 priority. Therefore, the #1 goal on the investment side is to preserve 100% of investment principal. I'm happy to say that for the 22nd year in a row, we've done that, and fully expect to continue to do that going forward. And then we do want to realize an investment income for the general fund. That's been a little easier to do in the last few years. Of course, I say that, and tomorrow the Fed's going to meet and the question isn't if they're going to lower rates, but by how much. And that does directly affect our ability to gain investment income. But as you can see from in 2016, and this is general fund only, we generated a little over $500,000. 17 was about $1 million, and last year was about $1.5 million. Because of the questions with the rates really haven't gone up significantly since the end of 2018, and with the potential for them to go down anywhere from 25 basis points all the way to 1 percentage point over the next several months, it could, again, negatively impact the ability to earn investment income. Now, with our pool, with the amount that we invest in the laddering that we do, any changes in interest rate are like turning the Titanic. It just takes, it's very slow to go up, it's very slow to go down. We don't react the way the general stock market acts. We have too much money laddered out, so it's very much a smoothing effect on what happens. But I didn't want to give you too much hope about $2.5 million when we don't know what's happening with interest rates for sure. Significant budget issue. There is a court case that is going to be heard by the Michigan Supreme Court. It's called Raffaelli Llc. versus Oakland County. And it is relating to the sale proceeds. And just quickly, what happens when we foreclose on a tax foreclosure, it is a judicial foreclosure process where the county treasurer or the state takes actual possession of the property. And then at that point, we set about attempting to sell it. And because we are the owner of record at that time, there really is no such thing as excess proceeds. But this is a case, unfortunately, a case with where the numbers make it look like Oakland County foreclosed on a property as they were required to do by law, but it was for a very, very, very small amount of tax dollars, and it was worth, it was a rental property worth a little over $100,000. So in that scenario, on that property, Oakland County stood to make a sizable profit, if you will. So there is this case in Kent County, and frankly in every county, it's sort of the same thing. We have some properties that we foreclose on where we will sell and make money on. But there are others where we will lose money on them. And the whole intent of the law was to essentially be able to bundle all them together so that as a whole, we would hopefully avoid going into the negative. And this case is trying to make the argument that we should not have any profitable sales, only unprofitable sales, which really throws the entire process into chaos. If we, first of all, what it suggests is that we become unpaid realtors for people who walk away from their property, because their intent would be, first of all, under the law, the mortgage gets wiped out. There's no longer a lien on the property, but then if we make money, they would get the excess back. So we're essentially acting as their realtor for free. And there's a whole lot of other issues with it. But up until now, we've been, we being the county treasurers in Michigan, have been very successful of winning these cases throughout the state. This is the first time one's actually made it to the Supreme Court. And anytime it goes to the Supreme Court, you got to hold your breath a little bit. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. There is also, there have been a couple of legislators who have popped up wanting to change the law similarly. The County Treasurers Association has met with some of them. We're trying to convince them that all is not what it seems, and explaining to them the reality of the process. So I'll probably be having a conversation with Becky as well on that. But again, you know, hopefully the Supreme Court will see that the law works and does not overturn what we've been doing. But we, you know, as a county, we have transferred well over $1.5 million to the general fund over time from the land sale proceeds account. And while I think that the annual numbers are dwindling because our foreclosures are dwindling, it could still have a negative impact. And ultimately what that means is we would end up having to bill back all of the taxing authorities. So if all we have are losers and we have to be made whole, we're going to have to bill back all the schools, all the townships, all the cities for the shortages. So it doesn't just affect the county, it affects every taxing authority within the county and potentially within the state. So it is a kind of a big deal. Couple of accomplishments. I'm very proud to put this up every year. That we work to maintain the county's AAA credit rating, and I know there's always the question of do we really need it? I argued very strongly, yes, we do. Not only for the physical dollars saved, but allowing local units to borrow using our borrow money under our credit rating. It also is a report card to the business community and the taxpayers that we are a well-managed county. This is a place you want to live, you want to work, you want to expand your business. So I believe it is very important, and I'm very proud of the fact that in my time we've been able to maintain that. Airbnb tax revenues are exceeding expectations. When I came to you a year ago to explain what we were doing, the estimate was about $100,000. We actually, in the first 11 months of doing business with them, we've collected over $180,000. So once we get that 12th month in, it's going to be closer to $200,000 for the first year than the $100,000. So that's been a nice thing. Now, in the overall scheme of things, this is only about 2% of our lodging tax revenue. So it's not make or break our lodging tax, but it's still a good win for us. Some of the key collaborations that we have, again, I always like to point to the local government investment pool. We have about 25 cities, townships, authorities that are eligible to participate actually investing in the pool, with roughly about 20 to 25% of the total pool being from those participants. So that's been a really good collaboration. Again, we don't charge anything for that. We gain from having the larger volume, they gain from the larger volume as well. So it's a win-win for everybody. We have to collaborate with all 35 local units for tax collection. That's a fairly complicated process that we've been able to refine to be a very smooth operation as we go through each year. So that's been working well. And then, of course, I think Airbnb is definitely a collaboration. It's a voluntary agreement that they are participating in, and we're very happy that that's working out for us. And finally, a look ahead, and this one's been on here for a while. We have continued to struggle with dealing with what's known as PCI compliance, or payment card industry compliance relating to security. You hear about data breaches and on credit cards and stores and whatnot. We want to make sure that we are fully covered on that before we go into acceptance of credit card payments for delinquent taxes. But we're getting closer, so that's still on my look ahead. The number of hotels, as I mentioned, is increasing. Seems like they're popping up like mushrooms today. And so, again, while we're trying to use technology to its fullest extent, there may come a time where we might need to bring on a second auditor to help make sure that we are covering them all in a timely basis, because I believe that is knowing that every 3 or 4 years the auditor is going to come in, it does help to keep folks honest, business operators honest on their tax issues. Not only that, occasionally there are errors that are made that are simply errors, not anything of relating to intent, but if we were to say audit every 10 years versus every 3 or 4, that's just that much longer where an error can compound and put the business in, when it is found, put the business in even greater of harm's way. So I believe our system works pretty well to keep the revenue coming in and keeping the numbers. Our audits don't turn up a lot of adjustments, but again, I think that's partly because of our proactive working with them and proactively them knowing that we're going to be there. And then I am working with Linda on wanting to try to forge an agreement with VRBO / HomeAway. Apparently, they're actually related parties for continuing lodging tax collection in a similar vein to Airbnb. So hopefully by the end of the year, have something in place with them. So that's what I have for you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you, Ken. Commissioners? Commissioner Tellen.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Ken.
Good morning.
Thanks for the report.
Sure.
Wanted to go back to the investment income and ask how much of that is general fund? How much of it is, goes?
The numbers on the screen are all general fund
general
numbers.
The 1.6
Yes,
approximately.
right. The total pool would be between 4 and 5 times that number.
So there is additional investment revenue generated, but that goes to the
All the other funds.
investors. Okay.
Yes, all
Thank
the
you.
other funds. Most of it to the, different county departments and funds. But yeah, the local governments also benefit from that too.
Thank you.
My annual report always lists both the general fund and the total pool amount, so.
Commissioner Pottstein?
Thank you, Chair Steck. Ken, thanks for being here today. Want to congratulate you first. I overheard that your peers elected you County Treasurer of the Year, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And not to brag, but that was the national award, so thank you very much.
So you had brought up the AAA bond rating, and I know we hold that in high regard, and I had an opportunity to run into a person from the city of Austin and the county that surrounds that, and they too have a AAA bond rating. And they had told me this year for the first time they got a really odd question on when they went there to present, and it was whether the county or city had a resiliency plan and what are they doing to deal with climate change. Now, I'm not going to argue climate change today, but I always looked at a AAA as a financial thing, and now we're hearing, and the more I talk to other people, other counties have said that that's a concern when they just bond, is that questions like that are now influencing the credit agency. Have you?
We haven't really run into that. I suspect that the reason for that, though, is, Austin being in Texas and not all that far away from the Gulf and Houston and all of the problems that they've had down there weather-wise. I think particularly the major southern cities, New Orleans, Houston, Miami, that the weather does have a major financial impact on them. And so they do have to, I think we all learned from New Orleans, 12 years ago, 13, however long ago it was now, that there are those issues. I think here, it would, for us, it would be more of a Tornado Alley kind of situation. Are we prepared for if a tornado takes out this building or our IT? And I know that, we do have a good emergency preparedness committee that looks at that. So because we're not in the major significant weather zones, if you will, it really hasn't come up in any of the conversations we've had with the rating agencies. But I can understand their concern, because what they're rating us on is our ability to repay debt that we issue. And if we were in Hurricane Alley and were, you know, the potential for not being able to collect taxes for 6 months could negatively affect our ability to pay any debt payments. But again, because of where we're located in the mitten, we haven't had those questions come up, and so I think we're in good shape.
Thank you.
Commissioner Melton?
Thank you, Chair, and hi, Ken.
Hi.
So maybe this is something I would have to ask you at another time unless everyone else understands it totally, but I'm to the Supreme Court and what they're talking about. Am I under? Wow.
I didn't think I'd have to do a soft shoe, but.
There you go, that was good. Am I understanding that the state has decided that extra monies should go to them as opposed to back to the county? No, okay, so I'm totally off here.
What the lawsuit is about is that the former owner of a property that was foreclosed, where the tax amount due was very small and the sale proceeds on the house were very big, is saying, their argument is that that's a taking or something similar and that they should be paid any money earned over and above the tax bill that was owed.
The state should.
No,
Or the
in this
people.
case, it's Oakland County. And so if it were in Kent County in the same scenario, they'd be suing us saying, you shouldn't get to keep all the extra money.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
part of that has to do with, that's essentially how the process works on a mortgage foreclosure, but the difference is that on a mortgage foreclosure, the mortgage company doesn't take possession of the property right away. We do, and it's very clear in state law that that's what we do. So if we sell it for more or less than what is owed, the difference, that's on us. But there is this, the plaintiff in that case is backed by an organization out of California that is trying to make a statement nationally about foreclosures. And so they're putting a lot of money behind it. It's a Pacific Legal Foundation or something like
Okay.
that. So the practical ramifications for us are, we have always generated more than necessary from the sales at our auctions
Okay.
in all the processes. The state law allows that 2 years after the auctions have taken place, if you have proceeds, we don't like to use the term excess, but if you have proceeds, they can be transferred back to the general fund, and we've been very active in doing that in Kent County.
Okay.
So, as I said, I didn't add up the total number, but I know it's well over $1.5 million that have come back to the general fund over the last 18 years or so.
Okay.
And so that could have the impact, and the greater impact is going forward, because if anything that we were to have additional funds on, we wouldn't get to keep those. And so it's only the ones where we don't sell for a high enough price to cover the cost. So all we're ever gonna have is a negative sale.
Sure.
And that means we would have to bill back to all of the cities, townships, school districts, everybody who had a piece of that tax bill to be made whole. So it really is, it isn't just a county issue, because every taxing authority is going to be hit by this. And so we are continuing to try to work with MAC, MTA, MML, the school business officials, to show them the impact that it could have on their organizations and their members. So we're hopeful, again, we're hopeful that the Supreme Court will uphold the lower court rulings. Oakland County won at both the Circuit and Court of Appeals. But the Supreme Court decided they would take a look at it.
Okay.
So, and we don't know for sure when that ruling's gonna come out.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Skaggs?
Thank you, Chair. So I guess, Ken, what you're saying is that there ought to continue to be a penalty for breaking the law, not paying your taxes, and freeloading off the rest of society.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So
Your
just,
words, not
just
mine.
a quick, yep, exactly.
That's a leading question.
I think those are allowed in this arena. Just a quick question though on the credit card stuff. What's the timeline for that, and what is the delay here? I know there's a couple of constituents that would like to make it easier.
There's a lot of constituents that would like to do it, and we'd love to do it as well. With the way our system has worked here, of any credit card activity that we do have, you know, if you want to pay for your birth certificate over online, or parks reservation, you know, pay for a class online, whatever it is, we have worked with maintaining the credit card processing essentially in-house. And that exposes us to significant security concerns. You know, anytime one of our employees, county employee, touches that data in any way, and even if it's, hey, can you take my credit card over the phone? If they take that, you know, they write down that credit card information, that becomes a compliance and security issue. Part of the reason that we've kept it in-house is because the IT department has actually been able to generate revenue by maintaining the process in-house. But the security concerns being what they are, for the dollar volume that we potentially could do on collecting taxes, we're probably going to have to go to an outside processor who's willing to assume 100% of the PCI compliance issues. And so that if there is any sort of breach or any sort of violation where there's a fine involved, that would be on them. And so I'm really changing my focus away from trying to keep it in-house to help, you know, generate the revenue for the county, to going outside to one of the numerous companies that there are that, so we just have to work out the details and sit down with IT but I do want to move on this. This has been on my list of things to do for 5 years.
Yeah. So that's a this year thing, or
I hope
before
so,
you get
but
to
I
factors
can't
next year?
guarantee that, because I don't know how long the implementation process would take once we actually start. But I would say that would be my goal, is to at least get it started this year and have it implemented sometime next year.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Any others? If not, I have just a couple of comments. Ken, first of all, acknowledging you for continuing to work on the Airbnb and the VRBO. I know that those seem like small numbers, but in part it is a matter of equity.
Absolutely.
In treating everybody fairly, and so even the smaller operators like VRBO, I think it's important that we maintain that equity. And the second is with respect to the Oakland County case. At least my understanding is there may be at least one other federal case out there dealing with an ancillary issue, and so if these are constitutional claims, we'll probably have to wait and see what the U.S. Supreme Court weighs in on, if at all, before we solidify that.
That is true. Actually, the U.S. Supreme Court, just within the last month or two, made a ruling that makes it easier for claims against states and state-level governmental units, states, counties, et cetera, makes it easier to take those claims directly to federal court. So far, there have been a number of attempts to take these types of lawsuits, like Raffaelli, to federal court. And they almost invariably are dismissed over venue because it was a state court, a state law, state court issue. But the feds have said, the U.S. Supreme Court has said that There should be a path to federal court on this. So that has prompted a number of lawsuits already. There's been, I don't want to go too deep in the weeds here, but there is an attorney out of the Saginaw area who has been attempting to build class action lawsuits out of this similar issue in state court, and has been not being very successful because the courts are ruling, in general, the courts are, he would group, say, 8 counties together, and 8 county treasurers and 8 county boards of commissioners, but he'd find a plaintiff in one county, or 2 plaintiffs from the same county, go to that county to sue us. Well, in our case, it was 2 plaintiffs in Ionia County, and we rightfully argued, what did I have to do, what did you have to do with harming the plaintiff in Ionia County? We had nothing to do with the plaintiff in Ionia County. Judge, you should dismiss us. And the judges have agreed on that. So we were dismissed in the state case, but literally the day after that Supreme Court ruling said it's now going to be easier to go to federal court, the same attorney had already lined up different plaintiffs, same concept, to go to federal court. So he's now trying to sue us in federal court, trying to build a class action lawsuit, or actually mini class action lawsuits, because I'm not sure there's a way to combine all 8 or 10 lawsuits into one. But yeah, we will probably, at some point, I suspect Raffaelli will probably end up in the U.S. Supreme Court, no matter which way it goes.
Well, maybe before we degenerate into a debate on concurrent jurisdiction, maybe we should move on, unless somebody has something else.
You're the only one who would debate that, because I don't have a clue on that one, so. All right.
Anything else? If not, thank you, Ken.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's move on to item number 4. Public Affairs Associate Becky Beckler is here to educate us on the latest, greatest in Lansing. I thought they're all on vacation.
Well, that's why this report might be a little short. It's hard to give a legislative update when the legislature is not actually in session. So therefore, some of the committee activity that I normally update you on will not be part of this presentation, because the legislature left in mid to late June from formal session there in district working, but we don't have a budget deal, and this is the first time in 8 years where the legislature has left town without having completed the state's budget. It's also the first time in 8 years where we're working with divided government. So that is one of the reasons why we are still here in what's approaching soon, August, and we don't have any type of an agreement. Clearly, the biggest issue is regarding road funding and infrastructure funding, and the difference of opinion as to how we get there. It's been no secret, Governor Whitmer had campaigned on a priority of fixing the roads. She has proposed in her budget a 45% gas tax increase, but was open to other solutions, but raising money to handle the state's infrastructure issues. Neither the Senate or the House Republicans have really come forward with their plan, but they continue to work with the governor's office, and the legislative leaders are working with the governor's office over this summer. They agree that all plans are on the table. There's nothing that they've taken off the table. We've heard about different taxing options. We've heard about using bonding for that, using the pension obligation bonds as possible one way. All of those options are on the table, but nothing has been decided. In the meantime, subcommittee chairs are meeting with their counterparts in the House and the Senate, trying to get their individual budgets in the best possible shape leading up to this. So if committees are working on boilerplate to see where they can have common ground on boilerplate, and also putting their funding priorities on the table so that when they come back, which appears to be mid to late August when they are going to return, they will be ready to go once there isn't a budget agreement. This could slip into September, clearly, but I think we're looking at mid to late August for some conversations. We're watching several issues specific to the county, certainly revenue sharing. If they somehow want to make significant cuts to the budget. Revenue sharing could be something that we need to watch closely. The governor had proposed a little over $80 million for the Indigent Defense Commission. Both the House and the Senate agreed to that, so that appears to be in good shape. Another issue that we worked on this spring very closely with the legislature is raise the age. It's an issue that has been around for some time. There appears to be agreement on the policy, but the issue is not completed because the governor has asked for that issue to be part of the budget conversation. The House Fiscal Agency has put that issue somewhere between $25 and $65 million. So that needs to be part of the budget conversation. So the raise the age is not done, but we continue to follow that. There's also some boilerplate in the corrections budget that could have some implications on our sheriff as far as jail funding. So we will continue to work with our legislative leaders on that as well. So there are a lot of issues that we need to continue to follow with our legislative leaders to make sure that we have some successes there. Senator McGregor has put $6 million in for local public health to hold them harmless, and we certainly are hopeful that that could stay in through the end of the budget process. We also had a good conversation. One of our priorities has been this year to deal with the 911 surcharge, to make sure that the county understands the process and we're receiving the adequate funds regarding this issue. County leadership had a great conference call with the 911 Commission within the state police. And Harriet Renee Brown offered some excellent suggestions for the county to follow as far as to make sure that we're receiving the money that we should be and working with the providers. So I think that was a big success, and I know that the leadership are continuing to follow that. She will make herself available to the county however she can be, but I think that was an excellent, good step to completing one of our priorities. We're also working with the governor's office specifically when it comes to the appointments director. When the governor announced the Census Commission, we noticed that there wasn't a lot of representation from Kent County. And that was concerning to us. And the appointments director has assured us that once they actually announce the commission chair, which they plan to do in the next week or so, she will make sure that when they announce that they're going to have, I think, work groups is the best description. One will be a municipal work group, that she will make sure that Kent County is represented well. She understands that perhaps that was something that they need to work on. So we're working to make sure that we have a voice in that arena as well. When they return with regard to the budget, there are not a lot of big issues. Clearly, internet gaming is something that the House Republicans have focused on. It's something that the executive office hasn't necessarily agreed on, but I think that issue will come up. Expungement when it comes to juvenile justice as far as justice reform, that could definitely be an issue. It's something, again, that the House is working on. So that could be an issue as well. So those are some of the bigger issues, but I think over the summer we'll probably hear a little bit more about what are the other policy issues that the legislature wants to do when they return for those next 6 months. So that is really what is going on in Lansing. I would be happy to answer any questions or get further information that you might need.
All right, thank you, Becky. So while the legislature is on vacation, we don't go on vacation here.
Right.
So we may have questions. Maybe we did go on vacation. Anyone? Yes, Mr. Talon.
I'll try one thing. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Becky. Do you have any sense for whether the legislature in general recognizes the severity of the lead poisoning issue in Kent County and in other aging neighborhoods? It still continues to be mind-boggling to me that Flint gets so much attention, and we really have a more severe problem here. And my sense is that there's not an urgency at the state to address what we are seeing in our children in Kent County. Do you have any sense for where the legislature is on that?
That's an excellent question. It's something that I believe we have really focused some attention on, especially with our legislative leaders. First of all, to educate them, because you're exactly right. The Flint water situation and even PFAS around the state has seemed to take the oxygen out of the room, if you will, when it comes to those issues. So we have been working with Senator McGregor and Senator Brinks to talk about lead and how it is affecting our children in Kent County, and hoping that they will secure, if not in the budget, perhaps in a supplemental or a future funding source. But it is something that we need to continue to make a priority when we're having these conversations, to make sure that they understand how important it is. So it's something that is very mindful, but I agree with you, it isn't at the place where it needs to be at this time.
Yes, Commissioner Skaggs.
Thank you, Chair. Just a point.
Thank you, Chair. Just a point of clarification. It is not vacation. It is an in-district work period. So that's what we're doing right now. We're doing in-district work.
I'm going to
Period.
Google that. Hold on a second.
Just upholding the honor of the hardworking legislators and their staff.
For the record, that's what I refer to that as well, not to offend any of our leadership.
I stand correct. Anyone else? Just a couple of comments that I have or questions. So if the budget approval is pushing into late August, maybe even September, for funding for some agencies or services that start fiscal years October 1, what's the fallback strategy if we get into late September and we still don't have a budget? Okay.
Honestly, I believe that the legislators believe they will have a solution to they will have a legislature. Our legislature tends to respond to deadlines, and sometimes they respond at the very last moment. If you remember in college, you'd study for a test at the very last moment. They appear to be focusing on that. It's the road funding piece. This budget would be absolutely complete and done, but there's so many disagreements and different views as to how to solve the road funding. If you're the House, you want credit for what you did 4 years ago as far as when they raised the gas tax and some of our fees, which is over $1 billion. I think the Senate has a different view. I think they might entertain some type of a gas tax increase, not 45 cents. But you just have differing views.
Yeah.
And I think when they regroup in August, they realize that they have to come to some conclusions, because October 1, they are required to have a budget.
It's just very frustrating if you have to manage an agency that's relying upon the fixed determination of that. And you're looking at just a couple of weeks, and then you still got to make your adjustments, so.
And that was the mindset of the last 8 years, is to give some certainty, especially to schools that are putting their budgets together. If you have it done in June, then they know what to expect as far as government support going forward. So I'm hopeful that this is made because it's a new legislature dealing with a new governor, that this is a one-year situation. Governor Whitmer did not want this budget undecided all the way into July and August. But it is here, so we're trying to make the best of it.
Maybe next year we go back to June. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Not. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to item number 5, which is a issue dealing with appointments to the Kent County Community Action Advisory Governing Board.
Yes,
Raymond?
this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to accept Tricia Vanderhaar and Carol Glanville to the Kent County Community Action Advisory Governing Board for 3-year terms ending December 31, 2019. Midterm vacancies on the Kent County Community Action Advisory Governing Board recently occurred. Solicitation of applicants to fill these vacancies recently took place for these positions. An interview team consisting of Commissioners Stan Steck, Stan Ponstein, and Carol Hennessy was appointed to review applications and interview qualified candidates for the vacancies. The interview team is recommending the appointment of the candidates noted above.
Is there a motion to approve that recommendation? It is moved, supported. Any comments, questions? I note one of them is in the audience. Carol Glanville's here. Welcome. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is approved. You're in. All right, let's move to item number 6, miscellaneous. Any commissioner have a miscellaneous item? Commissioner Bonk.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. With our reduced meeting schedule for the Legislative Committee, I was wondering if we're doing due diligence on the performance measures. We used to do about 40 a year, and now we're doing way less than that, and with rotation of commissioners and whatnot, I think before we'd see each committee at least once a year or report, and with that reduced schedule, I just wondering if we're doing our due diligence and of knowing what's happening throughout the county with all the many pieces that are involved.
Do you want to respond?
Yes, we decided to do this in order to kind of reduce the number of meetings that we felt like we could get through those without having every department come, but the major departments are slated to come and present. The treasurer's office, of course, presented today. We do go through a thorough review with each department. They're expected to provide similar updates to the county administration. So even with not having a presentation in front of this committee, they still have to come before our staff, present their PMs, and they also bring their staffs along with them also. And we talk about what the obstacles are, what the challenges are, what they're most proud of. And so the PMRT, the Performance Measure Review Team, have 3 or 4 members that sit with each department, regardless of whether they come and present. So we hope that that's going to make it, but we can go back to another schedule. You know, we just have to talk through it with the board chair, talk with the vice chair and legislative chair and say, what do we want to do for next year?
Well, if, you know, from my point of view, if you come forward with something and we don't know a thing about it, you know, because we haven't been involved with it or the presentation hasn't been made to us, it's sort of a surprise.
Yeah.
And I'm not one for more meetings at all, but I just, you know, make sure that we are kept abreast of what is happening.
Right.
And
We sent
it worked well for,
Yeah.
you know, 20 years. So.
Yeah, we did a survey last year. Before we decided to move on, we asked for feedback from each of the commissioners to tell us what they thought about. And there were some that felt we should keep with the same schedule. Some felt that we should change it. So based on that feedback, that's what the board chair decided to do, based on all the feedback. So we did do that. Maybe perhaps we should do it again and just take a temperature, see how we want to do it for next year. And we will ask the board chair to do that.
Okay, thank you, that's what I asked.
And there may be more that, instead of just the few we do ask, there may be more. It doesn't have to be all or everything.
Right. And what we said was that if there's a feeling that we needed to put another meeting on, then we will do that. We will alter the schedule, but give advance notice to it, long as there's 48 hours notice when we need to bring things to the board. Like this Thursday, there's items we're bringing.
Ted, those will be at 7:30 Saturday morning, but. All right, anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Tallon.
Thank you, Chair. This might be out of place for LHR committee, but since Ken brought it up, he mentioned that thanks to the AAA bond rating, the county has saved thousands of dollars in costs related to bonding. And over my 3 decades, I've heard those kinds of words used repeatedly, and I'm wondering if at some point we could get some sort of delineation of, you know, on this bond issue, if we had had a AA rating, it would have been this number of points difference, and what would that have cost, to really see what the savings have been, both for the county and for the various other units of government that utilize our bond rating for their borrowing.
Steve Duarte worked through that equation a couple of months back, and I think I'll have to get with him just to see if that's ready for prime time, but I will get back with Steve and say, what can we do to put that back in front of you guys?
Figured it was out there. It'd be
Yeah.
wonderful if we could have that shared with the commissioners. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a perfect science, but
No, but
But,
much more perfect than thousands of dollars
Yeah,
that we've saved,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, I think the number's probably millions of dollars.
it's a
but-
moving target.
Could be, could be.
But I agree. I think that it is fairly, well, it's more art than science because you have to do an awful lot of projections and speculation about would it have been a AA, you want to assume at a certain point in time, and what's the percentage of interest at that point when that bond hits the market and so on.
Right.
But what you're asking for is some estimate
Yeah.
based in good analysis.
Yep.
Get that,
Thank you.
okay.
Commissioner Melton.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Just to piggyback that is, as everyone knows, this isn't new, coming from my mouth, but that is a question that I get more than anything else going on in the county, in my district. And what is it saving us, and what are we doing with the money? And too often than not, and I did ask Steve about it once, and was told that it rightfully so, would be quite a task to look back. But that is a question that does come up, again, in my district quite a bit. If we're AA, what is the difference between that and a AAA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And so thank you, Commissioner Talon, for mentioning that, because I have brought it up before, and I would be curious.
Yep.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, if not, we stand adjourned.
I am Kent County. I am Kent County.
I am Kent County.
We are 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 Kent County.
Beya, Kent County. Ami, Kent County.
Somos Kent County.
Mas Ira, Kent County.
We are Kent County. We are Kent County. We are Kent County. Oh yeah.